There is no shortage of dynamic duos that seem to be just unstoppable, and in this video I'm going to travel back to 2019 as I look at one of the best wide receiver duos of all time in Jamarr Chase and Justin Jefferson. Whenever people talk about the 2019 LSU Tigers, it seems like everyone just focuses on Burrow and his Heisman season. And although he had a great year, there is no doubt that he could not have done it without such a great team around him. Whether it's the insane defense or stellar high-powered offense, there seemed to be no kryptonite in the Tigers. Crazy enough, LSU tied an NFL record with 14 players drafted following the undefeated season. So yeah, the team was pretty good. But before we look at the dynamic duo in the limelight, let's see what got them there. Jamarr Chase was born in Harvey, Louisiana, out of all places, and as you would guess, he dominated high school football, with over 2,000 yards receiving and 30 touchdowns. After doing his thing in high school, he committed to LSU, and the rest is history, as he's already become one of the best wideouts in all of college football in only his second season. His buddy Justin Jefferson was surprisingly enough also born in Louisiana, but instead is from a little town called St. Rose. And in that little town, he dominated high school football and showed out his senior year, as he put up almost 1,000 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns. Even though he had a good high school career, he wasn't a high recruit, and was not even a top 75 recruit in his own state. But like wine, he only got better and better, and along with Jamarr, he just lit up the SEC in 2019. With such a pass-heavy offense, it isn't as surprising as it would be in other offenses that both Chase and Jefferson were able to prosper and put up Heisman-level performances on the same team. I mean, I think people forget just how good both these wide receivers were for LSU. 2019 started off great for the Tigers with a blowout win over Georgia Southern, and each of the duo caught a touchdown as they combined for over 100 yards as they cruised by the Eagles 55-3 to start off 1-0. The win over Georgia Southern was good for the Tigers, but it was expected, and their next game is where the Tiger season really began, as they went up against the Longhorns. Not only was this game the real start of the season, it also was a turning point for Burrow as he proved that he was one of the best in all of college football. And not only was he one of the best, but the duo in Jamarr and Justin were able to prove themselves as some of the best wide receivers in all of college football as they shined against Texas, with Jamarr having nearly 150 yards and Justin having over 150 and 3 touchdowns to help the Tigers beat the number 9 ranked Longhorns 45-38, and as a result made their way up the rankings. Following such a matchup, the Tigers got a little bit of a break, and instead of going up against another top 10 team, they went up against Northwestern State, Vanderbilt, and Utah State, as the duo ate like they were at a buffet. Against Northwestern State, Jefferson had over 120 yards, and the team won big to become 3-0. And although Chase wasn't able to play, he more than made up for it in his performance against Vanderbilt with over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, as the Tigers won 66-38. After piling on win after win, there was no looking back, as the Tigers ran over the Utah State Aggies, with Jefferson putting up over 150 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, as the team won big 42-6, and as a result we're now 5-0. After a few easy wins, it was time for the Tigers to get another test, and this time it was against the Florida Gators. And following a close first half, the Tigers pulled away with help of Jamarr Chase's 2 touchdowns, and as a result won the game 42-28 to further show why they belonged at the top of the SEC. Following a solid win over Mississippi State, the Tigers yet again had another tough matchup, and this time it was against Auburn, and in the back-and-forth battle, the Tigers were able to win 23-20, following a great game by Jamarr. After the big win, the Tigers had their toughest matchup of the year against the dominant Crimson Tide, and during that game proved their spot on the top as they won 46-41, and the duo yet again dominated, with over 200 yards and a touchdown, as the Tigers became the team to beat. Now that LSU had gone up against the best, they were able to take a break against teams like Ole Miss and Arkansas and put up over 55 points back-to-back to go along with 2 big games by Jamarr and Justin, as the two combined for over 300 yards and 5 touchdowns against Ole Miss, as the Tigers became 10-0 and then 11-0 after beating Arkansas by over 35 points. And as a result, the Tigers were on the top of the world and advanced to their last regular season game as they went up against Texas A&M, following an insane back and forth in 2018 that ended up going the Aggies' way as they won 74-72 in one of the highest scoring games in college football history. The matchup in 2019 was very different than their OT shootout the previous year, and this time LSU demolished the Aggies 50-7 as the duo combined for over 250 yards and 3 touchdowns as the Tigers advanced to the SEC championship against Georgia. The game against Georgia was never even remotely close, as LSU dominated the Bulldogs 37-10, and they made the college football playoff pretty easily as the number 1 seed. As the 1 seed, they went up against the number 4 ranked Oklahoma Sooners and killed them 63-28. Against Oklahoma is where Justin was able to shine, with 4 touchdowns and over 200 yards receiving in the best performance of his career to help the Tigers make the college football championship against the defending champs in Clemson. In the Battle of the Tigers, LSU came out on top, and Jamarr had over 220 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, as LSU capped off a perfect year with a natty. Now that we talked about their insane season, let's play a little game. I'm going to give you 3 choices of 3 seasons of some of the best wideouts in the past few years, and I want you to guess which one is Jamarr Chase. A. 124 receptions, 1,727 yards, and 16 touchdowns. B. 117 receptions, 1,856 yards, and 23 touchdowns. C. 84 receptions, 1,780 yards, and 20 touchdowns. The answer is C. Jamarr Chase. Yep, he had that good of a year on the same team as Justin Jefferson, who is already one of the best wideouts in the NFL. If you're curious about who the other 2 are, A is actually Amari Cooper, who had an insane year with the Crimson Tide before going to the Raiders with the 4th pick in 2015. Oh, and by the way, B was a little wide receiver named Devontae Smith, who had a Heisman season the past year with over 1,850 yards and 23 touchdowns. Now, Jamarr might not have had the best season of every single wideout in NCAA history, but he still did pretty well, and honestly it was only 76 yards and 3 touchdowns away from the most recent Heisman. So I guess you could say he's pretty darn good. Not only did Jamarr have an insane season, but across the field was another star in Justin Jefferson, who had over 110 receptions and 1,500 yards, along with 18 touchdowns in the same offense as a dude who had over 1,700 yards and 20 touchdowns. So it seems as if they both ate the entire year, and as a result, the team played phenomenal and went undefeated. That season, LSU was not just good, but amazing, and they couldn't have had such a great season without the unstoppable wide receiver 1-2 punch that will go down as one of the best of all time. Jamarr Chase and Justin Jefferson on the same team, is there anything better than that?
Another touchdown! Jefferson! Touchdown Chase!
Thanks for watching the first Dynamic Duo video. In the comments down below, tell me what videos you want next. But anyways, see you guys next Friday, and peace out.